Season of Discovery can be seen as Blizzard's unofficial beta test for the future of Classic WoW, although its exact direction still remains uncertain. Given that many of World of Warcraft's audience still prefer the nostalgic vanilla MMO experience, it's logical for Blizzard to take the concept of Classic Plus seriously. But what can Blizzard learn from Season of Discovery, and how can Classic Plus ensure its own success? This video will explore what a Classic Plus server could look like, drawing from community feedback gathered over the past few years. You can see this as my unofficial manifesto for Classic Plus. The first challenge with Classic Plus is the unrealistic expectation that players will once again endure leveling 1 to 60 in the original vanilla world before encountering any new content like a new raid or something. While some players may be willing to undertake this leveling journey again, the majority likely won't find that appealing. For Classic Plus to succeed, it must heavily focus on new content. Instead of offering a mere update, it needs to deliver an exciting, fresh take on the Classic experience. The superficial polish that was provided by Season of Discovery won't be enough. The current Season of Discovery player base has dwindled so much that the realms are actually being consolidated, demonstrating that just wasn't enough to sustain a large player base. New content should be integrated from level 1, extending all the way to level 60 and beyond, as Classic Plus develops its own unique expansions and individual timelines separate from retail WoW. I think the first mandatory requirement that Classic Plus very simply needs is either 2 new races, a new class, or even better, both. The new class should be entirely unique, offering something that hasn't been seen in either retail or Classic WoW to attract a big player base. Here are some potential ideas. They could finally work on the Engineer/Tinker class. It would be a class utilising mechanical suits for tanking, explosive turrets and robot chickens for DPS, and healing drones for support. The Necromancer could be finally realised, a class focused on a different branch of dark magic compared to the Warlock, capable of summoning undead and using life manipulation for healing, similar to how the Shadow Priest Vampiric Embrace works. The Dark Ranger, inspired by Sylvanas Windrunner, this could be a solo ranger class with dark magic abilities, and a cooldown should transform into a Banshee. The Battle Mage, a melee mage class. It's probably one of the casters that hasn't really had a melee version of it. It could be inspired by the Rune Masters, which are already in World of Warcraft lore. They imbue arcane runes onto their bodies for insane powers. Talking of new classes, Raid has just released a load of new characters in their biggest event yet, the Asgard Divide. Let's take a little look at the trailer. That's a cool looking Loki, you know, I do have to say.
Very well, so violent it is.
Yeah, I literally can't wait to play this guy, he looks awesome. So the Asgard's Divide event is live from August 21st to November 22nd, and Raid has introduced new champions based on Norse mythology. We've got gods, legends, and my personal favourite has to be Loki the Deceiver. Loki's abilities are insane. He's all about trickery, deception, outsmarting your opponents. He can mess with your enemies in ways you've never seen before. You can actually get him for free. Just log in for 7 days during the event as parts of Raid's loyalty program, and Loki is yours. There's 3 more champions for Odin and Freya that you can collect, and to make things more intense, there's a limited time dungeon event running right now. This dungeon is packed with powerful bosses. You'll have the chance to earn some huge rewards. If you're looking to level up your gameplay, this is the event you don't want to miss. Now's the perfect time to get into Raid. Use the link in my description or scan the QR code to immediately get the Epic Champion Ultimate Gaelic. And then after you reach level 15, you'll also get another Epic Champion, Zargala. Click the link in the description, guys, to download the game, and don't forget to join my clan when you get logged in, the Goblin Cave. Introducing a new class or race option right from the start could significantly boost a potential player base easily by 30 to 50%. I think Blizzard would be incredibly unwise not to explore these new possibilities, because really, without a new race or a new class, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You're not really unlocking the full maximum potential of what Classic Plus could become. For new races, there's several directions that could be considered. The most obvious choice might be High Elves for Alliance or Goblins for Horde. Alternatively, Goblins could be introduced as a neutral race similar to the Pandaren, allowing players to choose their faction, but an even more unconventional idea would be to actually keep Goblins neutral even when you play them, letting them align with both factions and freely enter Stormwind and Orgrimmar as they please and group with whoever they want. Another more intriguing option for Horde could be the Siberian, or Siberian, no idea how to pronounce that. They kind of look a bit like the Khajiit from the Elder Scrolls. They hail from Draenor and would offer a fresh alternative to goblins who have already an option in retail. But I think to truly capture the Classic Plus player base, and to attract even some retail players, Blizzard need to introduce elements that are entirely new and unique. So a new race for the Alliance also, something we've never seen before. They could be inspired by the Dryads or the Ancients of Teldrassil, basically some kind of tree person. Although they are already represented a little bit by the Botanian Walls of Draenor, a playable version would offer a novel addition to the Alliance roster. Additionally, the Vrykul could finally be an option, would be quite an exciting choice that could also be implemented as a neutral race. Each race should have its own starter zone to introduce their lore and story, and I think at a minimum they should at least have a phased story scenario to open the game with, similar to the tutorial island found on retail. Turning to Azeroth now, I don't think there should just be new endgame raids and new dungeons in the game. The actual world itself should have new content. This could mean introducing new zones, enhancing existing ones with new settlements, quest hubs, open world events, secrets, treasures, and more fast travel options. However, the edges of the Azeroth map have largely been filled in, with only a few gaps remaining, such as between Northern Stormwind and Dun Morogh or Eastern Burning Steppes. Many of these gaps were addressed in Cataclysm. Totally new zones in the lore would undoubtedly be more thrilling, but revisiting the areas before Deathwing's destruction could also be intriguing. Imagine Hyjal before half of it was destroyed by Deathwing's, unleashing Ragnaros. It could be a lush woodland reminiscent of Teldrassil with a much greener colour palette. Gurneus was just a small levelling zone for the Worgen, it wasn't really revisited. Imagine it reimagined as an endgame open world elite zone with world bosses and events. Ideally, I think there should be 5 new levelling zones introduced with 3 new endgame zones. Existing zones should also receive new quests, hidden secrets, particularly high level areas like Tanaris, Ungoro Crater and the Plaguelands, because Blizzard themselves acknowledge that these high level zones were rushed and a little unfinished, and when you play these zones it's kind of obvious. Zones like the Plaguelands lacked a proper questing hub, with only Chillwind Camp and Light's Hope Chapel for the entire 2 zones as significant locations, while elite areas like Hearthglen and the Quel'Thalan Lodge, they just had way too little quests and content attached to them. A great example of revitalising vanilla zones can be found on the private server Turtle WoW. They have added substantial content, including a Goblin Port Town, Sparkwater Port in Dorotar, new undead areas like the Tirisful Uplands, and the Scarlet Enclave, a new high-level zone. In fact, Turtle WoW introduced 10 new zones, 42 new locations in the original vanilla world, 300 new quests. I mean, Blizzard should really look at Turtle WoW's approach and have that as a baseline, and they should aim to exceed it with even more enhancements. At the end of the day, if a private server team can do it, Blizzard have the ability to do it. There could also be additional flight paths, boats, zeppelins. Another exciting idea that we talked about on stream is to expand the Deep Run tram network, creating a central hub with routes connecting to various locations across the world, and then also, going back to Ironforge and Orgrimmar. Alongside world content, new dungeons are essential, not just for endgame content. Every 10 levels, there should be a new dungeon option, so I would go for 4 to 6 new leveling dungeons and 4 to 6 new endgame dungeons. And here are a few ideas that I've come up with. You could have a pirate-themed instance set in Stranglethorn that explores the lore of the Bloodsail Buccaneers a little bit more. Perhaps the instance could literally take place on a pirate ship. A little like the Maw of Souls or the Grimrail Depot instance, it doesn't actually take place in a place in the world, it's a dynamic, more cinematic version of an instance. Another thing we also discussed on stream is our love for Booty Bay. It's one of the coolest places in World of Warcraft, and it'd be great to see it expanded upon. Maybe it became a neutral capital city akin to Dalaran in Wrath of the Lich King. The Badlands could host an instance set within one of its dwarven fortresses. Hearthglen could be reimagined with a Scarlet Monastery themed instance. Ajara, which is a massively unfinished zone, it features the ruins of Eldorath within it, a former Night Elf city, and it could be developed into a dungeon. This area once saw a significant battle with the Burning Legion. Maybe there's some demons still in there, and it could connect to the lore of the Whirl of Eternity instance added in Cataclysm. If you like the video so far, guys, please do me an absolute solid by helping me out and subscribing to the channel. I also have a little bit of a secret video on my subscriber only page. Once you subscribe, that has a bit of information about a upcoming The Burning Crusade server, but don't tell anyone about that. An important topic to talk about is endgame content. To really make Classic Plus stand out, it's probably going to be way more beneficial to have entirely new raids, rather than sticking with the old raid phase schedule from Molten Core to Naxxramas. However, retaining the side raids like Onyxia and Zul'Gurub could be an option, especially if Onyxia included some extra bosses. If that instance was expanded, that would be really cool. It always felt a little underwhelming after all the effort required for that achievement that there's only one boss in there. If you think about it, Onyxia really wasn't guarded that well. I think as a minimum, Phase 1 of Classic Plus's endgame should introduce a revamped Onyxia's lair with additional bosses, and Molten Core should be totally replaced with a new raid. Launching with Molten Core alone would be a huge turn-off for many players. In fact, I don't think I would even bother playing it. A totally new endgame raid would generate much more excitement for the game. They could restore cut content from the original vanilla WoW, such as the Emerald Dream, Karazhan Crypts, Grim Batol, Zul'Dare, or whatever Azera's crater was intended to be. However, I think creating something entirely new would be way more compelling. One highly anticipated addition could be a Scarlet Monastery raid. This beloved leveling raid often is considered one of the most fun and enjoyable while leveling up, and I think it would just be a really cool raid. It could be integrated very easily into the Tiris full area, expanding upon the existing Scarlet Monastery settlements. It would just work seamlessly. It always felt like more could be done with Scarlet Monastery. It almost felt like, is there a raid after this? Because their faction was just so interesting and powerful that it kind of felt like a bit underwhelming again, that it was just a leveling instance. But when you think about it, we still haven't seen a Scarlet Monastery raid in the entirety of World of Warcraft. There's a reason why the Scarlet Crusade is probably one of the most role-played factions on role-playing servers. It's because loads of people just love the Scarlet Crusade. Another option could be expanding on the Titan themes in Uldaman. A deeper delve into the vaults could be fascinating because vanilla Uldaman was only partially explored by the Explorers League. It is very clear in vanilla lore that the Titan Keepers made this facility absolutely gigantic. Many zones, in fact, in vanilla WoW felt ripe for an additional raid, such as the Hinterlands, Dustwood, or Ungoro Crater. Each of these areas had a distinct atmosphere and lore that could lend itself to high-stakes world raid content, and they usually already have some really difficult elite area that could lead into a raid. Now, we've also got to talk about the leveling raids introduced in Season of Discovery. I believe that they should remain in Classic Plus as 10-man raids with their rewarding experience gains. They add variety and can provide enjoyable content for players leveling up. The world events from Season of Discovery are worth discussing. It's important for MMOs to offer more than just endgame raid content to keep players engaged. Many Classic players agree that the open world should feature relevant and fun objectives to encourage exploration beyond just hanging out in Stormwind or Orgrimmar. The game is an MMO at the end of the day, so we should be out in the world. The world events in Season of Discovery had mixed results. The Nightmare Incursions, for instance, did not resonate well and should be scrapped immediately, but the Blood Moon event was widely enjoyed. The Ashen Veil event was alright, but it could have been so much better, and I didn't really get to experience a Blackrot event before leaving Season of Discovery. I think Blizzard really need to pull a finger out of their ass, to be honest, and draw inspiration from other MMOs like Guild Wars 2 and New World, which offer great world events such as these portals that spawn enemies that you've got to shut. They were a little similar to another idea Blizzard dabbled in with the Legion Invasion event in the pre-patch. You know, stuff like that is very fun. Castle Siege events are also cool, whether they're PvP or PvE, they're always exciting. Imagine server-wide events where players have to either invade a fortress or defend it from waves of enemies. Such events are common in other MMOs, and WoW could benefit from incorporating them. World of Warcraft has always had well, especially in Classic, a pretty linear and basic progression path. You know, you farm your pre-raid bits in dungeons and then you go to a raid, and that's it. But I think players should have more options to progress their characters. It should be through raiding, dungeons, PvP and world events. But players also shouldn't be forced to do content that they don't enjoy, just in case they don't like PvP or they don't like world events. The point is, I just think the game would be better with more diverse and creative options for players rather than sticking to the very traditional linear progression path that is classic WoW. Blizzard could even look to their own IPs for inspiration, for instance Diablo 4's Helltide Portal invasions or Overwatch's push to payload mode could influence new world events or battlegrounds, which leads me onto the topic of PvP. PvP in classic WoW is a huge problem, like nobody plays it, and I think people don't really play it that much is because it's in dire need of revitalization. It's unfortunate that, not many people play it because it can be quite fun when you get into it, but we've really had nothing new, particularly in classic, other than arenas and battlegrounds. Obviously concepts like Plunderstorm's Battle Royale mode and MOBA style warfronts from Battle of Azeroth, they showed some potential, something like that could be interesting. There's loads of other game concepts out there such as Space Marine, Helldivers and Darkest Dungeon which are very popular right now, and I think it's because they offer something unique and entertaining. They have much more creative PvP modes and PvE modes actually as well, which could inspire new PvP content for Vanilla WoW. Imagine a battleground set in a gloomy, evil castle like Shadowfang Keep, featuring multiple teams of 3 battling against each other, but also taking down PvE enemies for whatever boons they provide to help them defeat the other players. If you really think about it, until the Blood Moon event, PvP has always just been about 2 teams against each other, Horde and Alliance, but having multiple PvP teams offers a new dynamic to the PvP scene. The old school Arteric Valley, before it could just be zerged by rushing to the last boss, is a prime example of engaging PvP content. I'm totally puzzled why Blizzard chose to release AV in its later patch state, and they even did it in Season of Discovery for some reason, yet the earlier, more complex version of AV was a very cherished part of Vanilla WoW. In fact, it's probably one of the greatest memories and most talked about elements of Vanilla WoW that original Vanilla WoW players talk about. The original AV actually had very powerful bosses guarding the towers and bunkers, so you couldn't just go and rush all of the objectives, and you couldn't even rush past the enemy team because there was loads of landmines in the areas that, you could use to just get around the enemy team. This design led to epic raid-on-raid battles. This was the essence of the battleground and the key part of its appeal, and it was totally inevitable that there was going to be a raid-on-raid battle that happened all the time, and it would go on for hours and hours. There was even like these extra world bosses that would spawn 2 hours into the battleground for some extra loot that you could get. I bet most WoW players still to this day have no idea why there are mines that you can capture in Arteric Valley. The honest system also needs a big rework. The current system feels very outdated and could benefit from some modernization to enhance the PvP experience and make it more about skill rather than just how many adult diapers you can afford. And lastly, we have to talk about some of the other game changes. Now, the rune system in Season of Discovery was a promising step in the correct direction. This adapted vanilla class design for a more modern MMO audience. It made it more accessible and got rid of all of the irritating crap, like many specs being totally unviable and useless. However, some people did feel like it went a little bit too far. I think there should be a balance in changing vanilla classes, aiming to make every spec viable and interesting without completely overhauling the core gameplay. The idea of allowing shamans, warlocks and rogues to tanks or, mage to heal, that was pretty cool and it should be expanded upon. I think introducing new playstyles and builds for classes should be explored, but the class fantasy of vanilla classes should still be important and present in the game. Quality of life improvements are obviously a given, such as dual spec, item stacking to 20 and instant mail, because there's no real reason why to keep the worst versions of those massive inconveniences in the game. It just makes the game more irritating. Additionally, a slow amount option could be interesting at level 20, maybe at like 40% speed. I think it'd be a very welcome change because one kind of annoying thing about vanilla is you have to walk around until level 40 before you get a mount. It's less than ideal, and again, it's not very appealing to the modern MMO audience, especially when you spend a lot of time playing more modern MMOs and then going back to, vanilla WoW. And, a big part of the classic audience have also, they were just so used now to having a mount at level 20. So, you know, another bold move for Blizzard would be to introduce some form of player or guild housing in Classic Plus. Player housing has been a very long requested feature that Blizzard have only partially explored. Full implementation of player housing could add a new dimension to the game and provide players with a deeper sense of ownership and personalization. Never underestimate how much MMO players really nerd it up over cosmetics. Some people play MMOs exclusively just for collection content. But anyway guys, feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Let's get some discussions going. It's going to be interesting to read the comments on this video. And before you head off, please do me a solid and sign the petition down below to get fresh Burning Crusade servers from Blizzard. Many of the player base just simply aren't playing in the game anymore because they don't like Sodom, they don't like Cataclysm Classic. Come on guys, we need something to play for the next couple of years before Classic Plus actually exists, even if it ever will. And guys, don't forget to click the link in the description to play Raid Shadow Legends, and don't forget to join my clan. Anyway, ciao.